Welcome to Unsilent with your hosts, Dave and Brian. This is not another current events podcast. We are digging deeper, diagnosing, and discussing what's really going on today, how we got here, and providing observations for future generations.
Welcome to Unsilent. We're Brian and Dave. We'd like your feedback. Where did we get it right? Where did we get it wrong? Where should we pick a completely different topic altogether? And you can do that by leaving a message on unsilentpodcast.com, going to Rumble, and leaving a comment in the video section where you can view Brian and my conversations each week, or any of the other social media channels. So another consequential week on planet Earth. Brian, how you feeling about everything?
Well, I just keep chuckling about the deal with Iran thing. Like it's just they signed and they electronically signed an MOU today as we're recording, as I understand it.
Right.
And it's really interesting to watch how the people who were hardcore Trump supporters, give or take 4 to 7 days ago,
right,
are now railing and they're upset and things like that. And people who were angry with Trump, 4 to 7 days ago, are now like, well, finally came to his senses, and he's working. In my opinion, he's working tremendous overtime to put spin on this, to make it look like a victory, in which it's not. I'm happy. Not happy. Happy is not the right word. I will accept the outcome. It seems like the least horrible of all the things that could have happened. Like just cut your losses and walk away. I'm cool with that. I'm not. I would have much rather he not start all this stuff, quite frankly. But I'm okay with him just cutting our losses and walking away.
Sure.
I am not overly optimistic that 61 days from now we're going to look back at this 2-month period and be like, well, yeah, that was awesome. Like nobody did a single thing, and like no shots were fired, and no miscommunications and misunderstandings, and we're all better off. I'm not in that camp by any stretch.
Yeah.
But I didn't save the clip, but he had basically said today, if I'm interpreting correctly, we really didn't have a choice. We're 4 weeks from running out of oil. And in the same press conference, he was literally, I did say this clip, it's about a minute long, but we don't need to get into it. But he basically was saying, what do you know, whenever I would, he was talking about like the economic risk, the potential for the stock market to have a big decline. And he basically was like, well, what do you know? Every time we would say something positive about the deal with Iran, like the stock market just shot up. It's the craziest thing, and it made me think of when Joe Biden, I think he was running for president, when he was talking about the prosecutor in the Ukraine and the $4 billion or $1 billion, whatever it was, and like, hey, if you don't call off your prosecution for this guy, we're going to withhold the $1 billion. And son of a bitch, Dave, he did it. What do you know? Like, it just reminded me of that whole same thing. Like, these guys are like cartoons now. I'm really getting more cynical on the leadership abilities and the intent, quite frankly, of the quote unquote people in charge. That's what I'm taking away from all this. It's a clown show, it feels like.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I think I said last week, the big disappointment in all of this is one of the big disappointments is how easily misled we are, is how easily manipulated we are. So because you're right, every single time we have an announcement I've lost track of how many times the war has been off. Now it's been,
I think the official count last before this MOU deal was announced, like last Friday or whatever it was.
Right.
I think the official count was 39.
That's probably true. Give or take a dozen. Right.
Yeah.
Well, so
I'm not. I really think that's the number. I'm not being sarcastic.
Oh, is that right? Is that the real number?
Okay. I really think it's. I've seen journalists like actually go back and count, and I think 39 was the number they came up with.
Well, okay. So you're not kidding, but it is still a cartoon, right? The whole thing's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon.
The entire thing. Well, to look at a few different pieces of the cartoon and say what are they? What is this outcome? I think for me, one of the biggest, disappointments, if you will, is if it does turn out, there's a clause in there that says if it does turn out in 60 days that it's all worked out and it continues to go fine and all that, we're looking at establishing a $300 billion fund so they can rebuild things. Now, it's supposed to be, quote, an international fund, and we're told that it's not just us writing a check, but I'm also remembering when Barack Obama sent a pallet full of cash over to
Yeah.
get the JCPOA in place. And how is it any different except it's on a larger scale? Now, of course, the people that would be supporting President Trump would say, oh, well, it's different because we're not funding the whole thing. I bet you we basically end up funding pretty much the whole thing. I mean, who else is going to do it? What do you think? Morocco is going to send a bunch of money?
Well, two things on that. Yes, and I learned this 2 days ago. Again, I don't know what's I part of what I hope Kenny G, the guy we're talking to 70 years in the future, is gathering from you and I ranting about this stuff every week is it is nearly impossible for me to really know what is true and what's
Yes,
not
it
true.
is.
Like
It is. Yes.
it's really difficult, right?
Yeah.
But I heard a guy who I watched like an hour and a half interview he did. He seems very educated. He was born in Iran. He has 3 children here who are all natural born citizens, but seemed in the know. So take it for what it's worth, right? He was explaining that JPCOA or JCPOA or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The part of the story that was left out was we actually were giving back Iran back their own money.
Well, yes, no, I do know
Yeah.
that's true. Yes, that is true. We released a bunch, and we're doing the same thing
I
this
did not
time.
know that. I thought we took money out of the U.S. Treasury, put it on an airplane, and sent it to them. I did not realize it was their own money they were giving
Well,
back.
he's saying that
My
the 150 billion was their own money.
that Obama sent. Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
see. I see.
yeah.
Well, okay. Okay,
So
interesting.
so the icing on the cake is not only is this more than what Obama did, and Trump went on to talk about how bad that deal was, but at least in Obama's case, if what this guy says is true, they were
Yeah.
getting back essentially their own money
Yeah,
that we had
yeah.
been withholding for however many years or decades or whatever. And I just saw a headline about this. You were talking about Morocco writing checks. I saw literally a headline that Saudi Arabia learned that they were contributing to the 300 billion via Twitter today, and they had no idea what's happening. Now, again, who knows what's true and who knows what's not, but I would not be one iota surprised if that was a no, is it really true? I don't know, but
Well, he governs by
basic
Truth
assumption, I wouldn't be
Social.
surprised.
I mean, he governs by Truth Social, right? We don't find things coming out from the White House press office most of the time. We find it coming
No,
on Truth
no,
Social. I mean, it's like, well, yeah, and that whole. Don't get me started on. Thank you for attention to this matter. I mean, that is that. Oh my gosh, yeah, I said I wouldn't get started on it, but putting all this stuff on Truth Social, making international threats on your own social media platform.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's it's beyond distasteful. Anyway, it's just that's stupid.
Also,
Um,
I think it's important. Like you were talking about, the way we are being led astray and misinformed and things like that. I don't think we can lose sight of. In this case, like over the Iraq War, for example, like what we started out to do and what we ended up doing 20 years later were very different objectives, right?
yeah,
So over 20 years, like okay, things change and situations change and new people pop up that have influence. You have to deal with that and situations. I get all that. We have a 90-day window here where the declaration of why this was a good deal has no resemblance to the reasons we started this engagement.
yeah,
None,
yeah,
zero.
yeah. Well, so here's the thing about that. So Trump says that the only reason he did all this was the nuclear. He calls it nuclear dust,
Right,
right?
right,
And in this situation, we're going to begin negotiations on the nuclear dust. What?
right.
What?
Yeah,
What? I mean, come on. There's just and the people. I mean, the cognitive dissonance. Again, a person that is attempting to lead you down a path, any politician or salesperson that's attempting to lead you to a conclusion is going to do their best job of leading you to the conclusion. And if they do so in a way that is less than credible or honest or whatever, it's really that, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 39 times, Yeah, shame on me on steroids, because I mean, how could the stock market's supposed to be run by brilliant people, the people that are investing the money here going up and down are making millions. I mean, just the whole thing, and they're making it on the back of retail investors who just follow along, follow the bouncing ball. They're momentum investors. It just, the whole thing just makes you lose faith in humanity.
Well, what you just said, I think this is an important thing that Kenny G should know, that is maybe not going to be encapsulated very well in, digital history books. And that is, like him or not, Trump had formed a coalition of people who typically had kind of given up on government. I
Yes,
believe, right?
right.
They believe that politicians were all phony and all fake, and the swamp, and he's going to drain the swamp and all that stuff. I sincerely believe a tremendous amount of the cohort that got him elected truly believed he would be different, and he has
Yes,
revealed himself to be anything but. And that disappointment and resentment and frustration that is happening in real time as you and I speak right now. People are noodling on this and like that.
yeah,
This guy got me too. He's just like it. I am getting worried that a sense of hopelessness is taking root. Hopelessness in the ability to vote your opinion into reality, right?
yeah,
The Spencer Pratt election in LA. Again, maybe the zero votes for Spencer Pratt out of 24,000, even though I saw a mathematical calculation on this. Again, never know what's true and what's not. But the statistical odds of that happening, where 24,000 ballots could get counted and zero be for the guy who was in second place, was a zero decimal 105 zeros 17. That was
yeah,
the odds that could happen.
yeah.
So all these things are just indicative that the people who are working 50, 40, 50, 60 hours a week and trying to keep up with their taxes and trying to keep up with inflation and groceries and all this kind of stuff. And we talked a couple weeks ago about how that study from Princeton about how 90% of the people's wishes are never manifested
Right,
in any
right.
kind of
Yes.
meaningful legislation.
Yeah.
I think that is becoming a much bigger story, not just here, but especially in Europe.
Well, and that's kind of a nice segue, because I don't know if there's anything else to say about the Iran deal. I mean, it's just,
No,
we'll just
I think
revisit it next week and say the
I
same
think
things.
the Iran deal, honestly, I think it's just a great window into what reality is.
Well, it is. That's exactly right. I think that's exactly what it is, and it's a great window into global reality, as an example, and where the power is, and all of that. But what you said about hopelessness, and about how people are giving up on, and as we look at the fourth turning and all the collapsing trust in the institutions from World War II down to today, that downward and to the right kind
Yep.
of scenario, we're at the last edges of that. As you said, they're like, well, maybe Trump can save the institutions. Well, if Trump is in this spot too, and just uses the institutions for whatever he's using them for self-aggrandizement and his place in
Yep.
history and all that, then that is the last little bit, because what else is there? And then we end up potentially in a spot where they're in, like in the UK, or off before we started, we were talking about Europe and Ireland, and
Yeah.
there was that horrible thing in Belfast, where somebody was just a horrible attack, and I don't care what country you go to, in England, there's still in the streets and protesting, and the people that are the big voices that are coming out. Some of them are, there's plenty of them that I'm like, yeah, I'm on board with you. There's some of them that are coming out that are being listened to now, that are a lot further to, I mean, I don't want to call them to the right, but they're more
Yeah.
radical and potentially violent. I
Yeah.
think that there's potential of lots of violence throughout Europe, not just in England or Ireland. I mean, when you got Conor McGregor running for the Taoiseach in Ireland, that tells you someone, an MMA star is going to
Yeah.
be running. That tells you something about the mood.
You just hit on something I think is worth pausing on for a second. When you began saying like people who are way too far to the right, then you kind of caught yourself and said, well, actually, they're not. I wouldn't consider them the right. I was assuming
Yeah.
you're talking about people who are like blatantly saying like the Jews are the problem and things like that. Is that kind of where
Yeah.
you're going?
Or yes,
Yeah.
those,
Okay.
or the
Yeah. Yeah.
people that are
Okay.
like violent. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I again, great window into how it works behind the curtain. I don't know that you're ever going to have a society where you have 0% of people who think like that.
Sure, that's
I
true.
think we hit what's the opposite of a zenith? I can't remember the aperture. Is that what it's called? The opposite of a zenith.
Oh
I
yeah, I'm not
we
sure.
hit we hit the bottom of that kind of the percentage of people who like truly don't like other people because of immutable characteristics or
Yeah,
religion or whatever. I think we hit the bottom of that right around 2010, somewhere around 2008. I don't know,
yeah,
somewhere in there. It's been upticking, I think, modestly in the beginning, but now it is becoming more of a thing. But the problem is that is then equated or conflated with um, political ideology, and I think they're
yes.
completely separate. But the window into the machine shows that they use those things. Like there's a guy running for Congress in Florida. I heard him talking for the first time. I've heard his name 100 times, but I heard him talking. I don't even want to say his name. I was like, listen to this guy. I'm like, dude, you're just like you're flat out just calling people out based on these immutable characteristics, just like we said was bad in Jim Crow era in 1944 Mississippi. It's the same behavior to me. I don't like it.
Yeah,
And I don't consider that political, but it's
right.
conflated by the media machine and the political machine and the oligarchic machine. It's conflated to be that's their politics, and I am very cautious about going along with that. That it
Yeah.
feels like a very dangerous path for me.
Well, yeah, it is a dangerous path. It's when politics becomes a tool for the megalomaniacs and for the people that want to, accrue power to themselves and take and just, it's the ultimate working out of the no good let no good crisis go to waste kind of scenario.
Right.
So it's not then motivated by politics. It's using politics because you're motivated by something else. You're motivated by anger and violence. And a
Yeah.
lot that's been a lot of the protest movements over the years have been that way. They've been, motivated that way, but we haven't seen it necessarily on a broad basis in a mainstream basis. And now we're seeing it in here and in Europe and in other places in a mainstream way. I mean, I think we're seeing there's going to be a change. There is a change happening in society. The old way of doing things is over. There's no question about
Yep.
that. The fourth
Yep.
turning and the whole idea of turnings is not a theory anymore. It's just with what we're observing around us and have for a while. And that brings with us some really great things. The elimination of dysfunctional institutions, which I'm down for that. I'm down for the
Yeah.
tax code of 70,000 pages no longer existing, and maybe we've got.
Yeah.
I'll share this. Oh, little side note here. As I'm going through my dad's stuff after he passed away, I found his tax return from like 1954. It was front and back, one page, front and back,
One
one
page, front
page.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was, I
Yeah.
mean, so I'm all for the elimination of institutions, or the at least the taming of
Dysfunctional
institutions
ones. Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
more for something better. But the problem is the simultaneous event that comes along with that is there's a whole violent streak that I think is unavoidable. And so while I'm excited on one end, I'm very, very worried about and what happens in America when people then, even the hardcore Trump acolytes, when they give up, they say our guy who's going to drain the swamp is just filling it up with a fire hose with this
He
Iran
became a
thing.
swamp creature. Yeah.
He's become a swamp creature. I mean, what else? What else is there? Is there another version that comes out that is truly, or have we lost all hope? I mean, that's the
Yeah.
worry.
And again, a thing that I don't know will be conveyed very well in digital history books or whatever that's going to look like in the future. Is at the same time, you have this now, I would say, a meaningful uptick in the isms, the racism, and the Islamophobiaism, all those things, right? It is different now. Like people are now locking into these things that we had prided ourselves on kind of getting away from,
Right?
and that's being conflated as that's their political views, which I am very clear about drawing the line between those two things. But
Right?
at the same time, you also have a situation where traditionally disadvantaged groups, I'll just say it that way, whether it be
Sure.
religion, race, whatever, their legitimate bad behavior is being excused because they're a traditionally disadvantaged group.
Yeah.
So At the same time, you have people, there's like legit uptick in the phobias and isms. You are you're glossing over horrific things that are actually happening to people because, well, yeah, but they come from a culture where they were disadvantaged. So like we have to
Right.
overlook, like there is no way that ends without violence, in my opinion.
Right.
Like zero chance. Like you can't be fomenting both of those cultural structure thoughts or whatever, and not have it come to blow. Because finally, somebody is going to get hurt bad enough. That's a compelling enough case. It won't be a 19-year-old kid who's getting beheaded. It'll be a 6-year-old girl or something
Yeah.
like that. And that's all it's going to take. And
Yeah.
it's just, we're off to the races.
Yeah, and that's where you see, like, if you think of England as a culture, or Great Britain overall as a culture, they have a when they suffer, the old Pink Floyd song, they what is it, the British way is to suffer in silence, kind of thing. I mean, so
Right.
they've always been kind of this it's kind of a gloomy place during most of the year. I mean, they've always kind of just, oh, we're going along with it, whatever.
Yeah.
And now when they're in the streets over, migrant crime and rape gangs and all of this stuff, that something has switched. And when you find, I think the turning point is when you find that as you said, there's always a small percentage of the population that is going to be hateful and violent and all that. When it expands to being your average mom or pop that's in the streets, and they're carrying a baseball bat or something, then you've really lost the societal cohesion. You've lost the last little bit of societal cohesion. I think that's where we're at.
Well, but they have a cure, Dave. You're missing the head. They have a solution that they're rolling out. Maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't. Um, in Britain specifically,
Oh,
their
yes.
solution is just to arrest people who say negative things online.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a chart here. Again, who knows what's real and what's not, but it's a bar chart. It's the top 10 countries by reported arrests for online social media posts. Number one, United Kingdom, 12,183. Number two, Belarus, that thriving spotlight of democracy.
Democracy.
Yeah, 6,205, half, right? Germany, 3,500. China, 1,500. 1,500 compared to 12,000.
UK is worse than China.
The UK, well, check this out. Let me read this. Turkey, only 500 out of, no, I'm going to guess the people in Turkey have been conditioned to say fewer things, where this is a new evolution in
Sure.
UK. But Britain now arrests more people for social media posts than China, Russia, and Turkey combined.
Wow. That's scary. Well,
So they have a solution, Dave.
Well, did you hear the other part of the British solution? Keir Starmer, the PM, who's not going to be there for very much longer, came out and said their other solution for this, for all these problems, is they're going to make it illegal for anybody under 16 to use social media. Now, how are they going to do that? Facial recognition.
Yeah, but not all social media. Not all social media. This is the when we were talking before we started recording. I told you a couple of things you want to talk about, and a couple of things I had just happened to line up. Australia, Britain, they've banned social media, which includes X, formerly Twitter.
Of course,
does not include Blue Sky.
Is that right? I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me.
So it's some social media, and
Wow.
their way of determining which ones are okay and which ones are not, they're saying, is by volume of users or whatever. But it's come on now, right?
Yeah, I mean, how blatant can you be?
Right. So we talked in the beginning about all this stuff is cartoonish, and you and I talked like a year ago about my perception is these leaders, they're supposed to be representatives, but they think of themselves as moral and righteous leaders.
Yes.
Right. Not only is their confidence not very high, they, like, again, clown show, like we were just talking, like, okay, we're gonna start a war, and then we're gonna negotiate to end the war to get right back to a worse situation than before we started the war. That's the confidence we're dealing with. But we always hang on to this thing. Yeah, but their intent is good. They're trying to do the right thing. They're just buffoons. If you lose the belief that their intent is good, and their intent is to like do harm to people or be indifferent to harm being done to people,
Right.
and they're buffoons, and their solution is to lock people down and shut up and go to work and pay your taxes. What other ingredient do you need for like real turmoil?
Yeah, that's revolution. I mean, at that point, you're basically when you get people out in the street in Britain and other places. I mean, with all of those things, that's revolution. I mean, it's surprising, honestly, that Keir Starmer and Labour can't see all that stuff and thinks they can get away with it, because you can't look at the British street as the example and say that that's going to go over well. I mean, you have to, those people have to be in a bubble as well. They all have to be in a bubble, the leaders.
I see it as two possibilities. I mean, there's many possibilities, but two main possibilities. One is their buffoonery is also being evidenced here, where how could you not see this painfully obvious thing?
Yeah.
Or they know things we don't that gives them supreme confidence they actually can pull this off.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, you have to look no further than AI to see what that could be.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. And that's a great segue into where we're at.
Like I did that. Two great segues.
That was pretty good. You're getting pretty good at this thing. You should do a podcast. Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah. You're getting good at this. So this week, one of the things that it sort of slipped under the radar of a lot of folks that don't pay attention to that is there's a company called Anthropic, which is one of the big AI labs. They produce a model called Claude, and the most recent model of Claude that they produced, the most powerful one, was called Mythos, and Mythos has such power that that both Anthropic and the federal government said we can't have that in the hands of just anybody, and so they limited Mythos already under export controls. But this last I think it was Friday, there's not a dumbed down, but a more tame version of Mythos called Fable 5 that Anthropic put out. Well, on Friday, the federal government said put export controls on that. They tried to work with Anthropic. The stories that I hear, and I've listened to countless hours on this. The stories that I've heard is the federal government approached Anthropic and said, we have some concerns that this could be jailbroken. And jailbreaking means that you can get past the things that prevent Fable 5 from becoming the super powerful hacker tool under Mythos. And therefore, we want you to we want you to address that issue and, make sure that it can't be jailbroken. And Anthropic said, after sort of casually dealing with the whole thing. I mean, Dario Amodei, who is the CEO, said he couldn't be reached to talk to the federal government about this because he was at a wellness retreat for an hour and a half. What? So
I think that's the pinnacle of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization. Right?
Yes, that's right. He's already there.
He's busy doing that kind of stuff, Dave.
Yeah, he can't be bothered
with like safety. Like
he can't be bothered with national security. I mean, now at this point, what we have now, I think there's lots of blame to go across with Anthropic, and I think that also exists on the federal government. The response from Anthropic was, well, we can't do that, so therefore we're just going to disable Fable 5 for everybody. Now, I was using Fable 5. I mean, lots of the people that are interested in AI, everybody's using Fable 5 because it is super, super powerful. Now, at first you think, it's just a product, whatever. But the ramifications of that people haven't been thinking of are very, very large. One of the biggest ramifications is in foreign relations. So a lot of the presidents of EU countries and the security apparatus in EU countries and every other people are saying, but wait a minute, one of the most powerful tools that we base our national security on, artificial intelligence, can be disabled by the United States federal government. I don't don't think so. It's like if we had the remote control shutoff for all of the F-35 fighters that we sell to, all the countries.
Yeah.
We don't like what you're doing over there, so we're turning off your F-35s until you get it the way we like it. That is, I mean, from an international relations standpoint and from an AI perspective, that's huge. If you look at it from an AI investment perspective, if you're in the United States, we are investing more money in CapEx, capital expenditures, on AI than anything we've ever done in the history of the country, period, full stop, right?
Yep.
Now, all those billions and billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars are flowing into something that the federal government could, on a whim or for good reason, I mean, there's good reason to be concerned about Mythos and Fable 5, can say, we're going to turn that off. And you've got trillions of dollars, hundreds of billions, maybe over $1 trillion at risk instantaneously because of that. And the thing we're basing all of our future growth on is turned off by the federal government. That is also a scary scenario financially. So there are so many different, levels of this, and it appears, even as today, you would think that Anthropic and the federal government would try to come to some kind of agreement. Now, Anthropic sent a bunch of people, including I find this one interesting. They sent their head hacker, the guy who is a security hacker who Anthropic scooped up, and they sent him along with a bunch of, really serious executives of Anthropic to Washington, D.C. to try and work this out. The problem, of course, is that the people they're talking to in Washington, D.C. haven't got a clue about this technology. They don't know how this works. I mean, I know more about how it works than probably most of the people sitting in the room, and a lot of the people that should have been in the room are over in Davos anyway. So you've got the Europeans and lots of people on the globe freaking out, and that freak out, the other thing that freak out does, who does that push them towards? That pushes them towards China, because China produces a bunch of open source, very powerful AI models. I mean, you look at all the stuff coming out of there. I've used some of the AI models that have been pioneered in China, and they're very good. A lot of them are very good. So you've got, so this is the biggest boon in AI. The federal government Anthropic kind of fight is the biggest boon to the Chinese AI industry that we've ever seen. And are these people not thinking, is Anthropic not thinking about this? Is the federal government not thinking about this? I would have wanted to see Scott Bessent skip Davos. I would like to see Howard Lutnick skip Davos. I want to see Susie Wiles skip Davos, even though they don't know anything about AI. They've got people working for them who theoretically do. They shouldn't be there. They should be in D.C. and Dario Amodei. They sent Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, all the big AI lab guys. They're all in Davos too. Why are they not working this out? Now, this model is super powerful, and there's some AI experts that I've heard that say you can't prevent AI models, or there's no way to assure that an AI model can't be jailbroken. It's not, and I'm not enough of a software developer to know that, but some people that I trust are, and they're saying what the federal government is asking for is also impossible. So we've got this house of cards that's built up that could have ramifications for security. Well, the other thing that is also interesting about this, and our friend Kenny G in the future will know this, AI doesn't live in the realm of commercial as much now as it does in the realm of defense and national security. That's the class of product that the federal government is treating us. Now, I don't necessarily disagree that it's a major player, because it's huge, it's more powerful. Who was it? I think it was actually Dario Amodei himself, the head of Anthropic, who like 3 or 4 months ago said we need to treat this seriously because AI is potentially more powerful than the nuclear warhead. And then Anthropic is all up in arms and he can't be bothered from his wellness retreat when the government says, you said 4 months ago that it was as powerful as a nuclear weapon, and we found a vulnerability, and you're not, on a plane here to address it. What in the actual F are you thinking?
So here's my question to you, Dave. As a lay person who has very little understanding of AI, I've used it. I've done some things that I couldn't have imagined myself doing. It's a fantastic tool.
Yeah.
It got me some results that would have taken me perhaps years to do without it, and I did it literally in like an afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating that. But even as a layperson, other than the timing and the specific details, which part of what you just said could not be predicted 3 years ago?
Oh, well, it has been predicted. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it has been predicted.
So, so the question then is, okay, if a lay person like me 3 years ago would have said, "Hey, eventually, how do we not have Skynet or
Yeah.
some version of that?" And then
Yeah.
we were scoffed at it, like, "Oh, you're like the horseless carriage people who didn't like cars and all, all that kind of stuff, right?" Um, okay, but there's real consequences, and again, it takes, in my opinion, tremendous mental gymnastics to disassociate all the buffoonery we just spent the first 30 minutes of this episode talking about
Yeah.
and say, yeah, but it doesn't apply to AI. Or you see the mosquito DNA messing with mosquitoes' DNA and turning loose 60 million mosquitoes to quote unquote help with malaria. And I guess it also has these other really nasty side effects, and nobody really got to have an opinion about that. These and you look at the system for the last I'll say since the early 80s, the system has been built such that the government is always there to bail these guys out.
Yeah.
Always, the banks got bailed out in '08. Lots of things got bailed out in '01.
Yeah.
They changed rules in '87
Yep.
because of these big financial downfalls. The government has always been able to bail people out. So as a business owner, we know you make decisions based on risk and ROI. Like
Yes.
those are two of the big drivers.
Yep.
Well, if you don't have to worry about the risk part, that changes your calculation on uh, what you should try tremendously.
It
And
does.
if you don't have to worry about the consequences because the government's going to bail you out, or because you live in a neighborhood where you don't have to worry about crime or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. If the risk component is removed, guess what? You're going to do dumb things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we're at. And the fact is that now AI is too big to fail. I mean, if the previous, banks and other organizations that are too big to fail, if we build them out, and now you look at, well, let's take SpaceX as an example. The thing that made Elon Musk the first trillionaire in the world, in theory at least,
Yeah,
in terms of on a piece of paper.
on paper. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, on paper. But you look at Anthropic, or you look at OpenAI, you look at any of these companies, and now and the amount of expenditure and the amount of our wealth as a nation that we have invested in these companies, they are geometrically bigger than the companies that previously were too big to fail. I mean, geometrically bigger. So they are by definition again an example of people that, well, and I think that Anthropic in particular, I don't. A lot of these people are just ill-equipped to manage what they've built. They've built this Frankenstein thing. I think Anthropic still thinks of itself as kind of a small business. It's like, we'll give the federal government a call back, eventually. Well, I'm busy right now. I'm getting a pedicure, whatever.
yeah.
They're not taking seriously what they have built. A lot of them. I mean, I think the same thing is true. You remember it was a little bit over a year or two, probably a couple of years ago now. Sam Altman got fired from
Yeah.
OpenAI because he wasn't taking security seriously. Well, and then Bill Gates, well, not Bill Gates, but Satya Nadella, jumped in and saved him from Microsoft. All of these folks are not really taking seriously what they've built at the same time. So they're just also not equipped to manage it. The federal government's not equipped to manage it. I mean, all of those things together become just a recipe for disaster.
Well, the government, in my opinion, has probably not had the ability to really. I mean, they can try these restrictions and whatever. I based on how little I know about AI, like good luck with that.
Yeah.
The next generation of AI will just unlock the previous one of worst case. I mean, like there's always gonna be a way for that to happen.
Right.
But like we said last week, we're now the capital is and the hierarchy is above the government, and AI
Yes.
is a great example of that. The AI is the AI companies are probably more powerful now than many governments, if not
Yeah.
even our own, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, who becomes the arbiter of good and bad, and who becomes the one who gets to decide all this stuff, which is not that different. We were talking about earlier, like in Britain, just turn off people's ability to complain, and like shut up and go to work and pay your taxes because we got important things to do over here, like get my pedicure
Right.
when there's risk of the world imploding because everybody's security has been breached by this new model we just and what are they gonna do there? Oops.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Sorry.
right. Exactly. I mean, what's the recourse to this? It's not. I find it. Well, and we're in an age of extremes across the board. One of the. I'm definitely not an Elon hater. Talking about all the people that are mad at him now for becoming a trillionaire.
Yeah.
I'm not an Elon hater. I think the guy is
No.
brilliant. He's done lots of brilliant things. I mean, SpaceX is an amazing company from the standpoint of I've always been an admirer of NASA. I mean, I've always
Yeah.
loved NASA. Grew up, watched the kids when I was a kid, watched the astronauts land on the moon. I mean, SpaceX has done things that NASA couldn't do, and they're the chief provider of orbital
Too,
launch
by the way.
vehicles.
Quickly. In like 2 years, they did what
Oh yeah,
NASA couldn't do in decades.
yeah, exactly. And so now, all of that said, now we have a situation. And again, I'm not typically spending a lot of my time on income inequality. But now you consider that Elon is bigger as an individual than almost every country on earth.
He has more as of yesterday. Couple statistics as of yesterday, because the market declined today, so he's down probably a couple $1 billion, a
Too
couple
bad.
$100 billion. But as of yesterday, his net worth was the same as the bottom 50% on the planet combined. The bottom 50% on the planet. Every of those 4 billion people, every one of them, if you took their net worth, it equaled his.
Yeah.
Also, for every dollar SpaceX goes up in the stock market valuation, he makes $6 billion.
Yeah. I mean,
and as of yesterday, he could have lost $1 trillion and still been the richest man on the planet.
There you go. I mean, so what does that say about our system? I mean, what does that say about our system?
I'll tell you, if I think it's a great window into how it really works.
Yes.
What kills me is Elizabeth Warren complaining about how we shouldn't have a trillionaire.
Right.
But really what she's saying is my friends should be able to make money off the government contracts, not my enemies.
Yes.
And like him or not, Elon chose the best customer of all time to ever make happy, which is the U.S. federal government.
Absolutely.
How much of his wealth has come from government contracts?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can hate him all you want. He's playing the game better than anybody else.
He is. He's brilliant. And government contracts, and the second one was government subsidies. I mean, Tesla was built on government subsidies. They were giving us thousands of dollars in credits to buy EVs. Yeah, because the world is going to end because
we're gonna take all these hardworking people's money who make $47,000 a year, and we're gonna tax the shit out of them, and we're gonna give it to people to save the planet and be green. And what do you know? He did that better than anybody else. He picked the best customer you could ever have. He got on the correct trend. He did it wildly efficiently and great process improvement and great salesmanship to Wall Street. Like, he did all the things right.
Yep.
The problem is it's not their team.
Exactly right. And that's where, just every one of these things we talk about is another straw in the, that's going to eventually break the camel's back. Because I mean, you can't have, I mean, the income inequality issue is going to be a huge issue. I mean, so globally speaking, and so that one, just on top of everything else, is we're getting near to one of them is going to break the camel's back, and we're going to lapse into where we don't want to go.
Yeah, the only thing you said in your AI description that I don't think I agree with is I don't believe AI is too big to fail. I could totally see a world where it just completely implodes and we kind of get back to more traditional. Not that AI is going to go away as a tool entirely. I don't mean that. I just mean it will not be what the monster, the Frankenstein. That's a great way of putting it. It won't. We will have a version that's not this Frankenstein who could like literally destroy all governments and all people with, like, if a hacker or a smarter AI came along and said, these humans are really the problem. If we get rid of these humans, like, everything would be really cool on the planet.
Right.
Having a version of that just seems like dumb to me. Like, it just seems like, okay, so I can see a version where they go, okay, we were misguided, misdirected.
Yeah.
AI as a tool for efficiency, awesome. AI as the arbiter of what's good and right and fair
Right.
and how things should be. Yeah, let's not do that. I could totally see a world where that unwinds completely, and it will bring everything down with it.
Right.
AI could be the RCA in 1929.
And
I
that's the
totally
way
could
it would
see that.
have to occur. So when I say too big to fail, for instance, I mean as a in the mind of the government, it could be too big to
Oh,
fail.
gotcha. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
when it isn't too big to fail in the sense of could it implode on its own because of all the factors you mentioned and probably half a dozen more. Absolutely, it absolutely could. Probably will, because you can't have 90% of the economy being AI. I mean, you still need some other things too. It's just not.
And like we talked about last week and the week before, all these rules that have been imposed upon the citizens, like water conservation
Yeah.
and power conservation, all these rules have been just conveniently put aside because we're going to put a data center in Arizona where we're short on water.
Right.
Yeah, but don't worry about that. We're going to have a data center here, and the good news is your kids will be unemployable. Like that it's all going to work out.
That's right. Yeah, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? Yeah, so there you go. That's I think the it's going to be interesting to watch how this one particular one, the government versus Anthropic, I think that one's going to be very instructive for the future of AI and the economy and international relations and our conflict with China. I think that, and that's the lens through which I think we have to look at that, not just a battle between one company and the federal government. I think we have to look at it through kind of broader lenses and see how that plays out. And I don't know how it's going to play out. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I remember when we first started doing this, I had a thesis that the spark would be one of three things: either a civil war, again, not like trenches and muskets
Yeah.
necessarily, but it could be an economic civil war. It could be a cities versus whatever. It could be a lot of different things, right? um that or an outside power like Japan bombing Pearl Harbor. An outside power and threat was such a great threat that we unite all of us and we would
Right.
be against that, or the people would revolt against the government. And
Yeah.
what's interesting is all the things you and I've been talking about for 3 years do seem to fit fairly closely within each of those buckets.
Yes.
And it changes like every couple of weeks. It's like there's a new front runner. Like right now, the front runner is the people who just want to be left alone finally say they've had enough and just
Yes.
completely revolt.
Yeah.
That feels like it's the front runner right now. Where 6 weeks ago, it felt like World War III was going to be the front runner.
Yeah.
It's and I remember when we first started doing this, like the whole premise was what was going on with that grandma who was baking cookies for her grandkids in
Right.
Germany, 2 miles from Auschwitz. Like, how could she go along with this?
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, we're powerless.
Yeah.
The forces so much greater than us are determining how things. It's just a matter of what is going to push people too far, and the people who just want to be left alone have just had enough. And what God help whatever is on the other side of that.
Yeah, well, the fourth one could be they just released another tranche of UFO files, and so there's now
Oh, there you go.
we haven't talked about that. There's
Yeah,
a bunch of a bunch of folks that or a bunch of reports of orbs like flying around the United States the last few years. And Neil deGrasse Tyson just came out and said, "Show us the aliens. Show us the aliens. You've got them. We can handle it. We're not wimps. We
yeah.
can handle it." So who knows?
Well, I
Maybe
would put that in the bucket of a threat so powerful it
external
unites us.
force.
I would put that in that bucket for
Yeah,
sure.
it could very well be. Could be the orbs. Could be the orbs. That's all. I'm going to go right now.
Yeah,
I'm going to put my money on the orbs just because I can't think about the other stuff.
I'm gonna put my money on Conor McGregor. And I'm only halfway joking about that. I it, I would not be shocked if the spark is not in the United States, but it's really in Europe.
Yeah,
I would
no,
not be shocked at all.
no, in fact, I do think I think it's likely that it's in Europe because I think that I mean in the U.S. at least we're one country, even though we're as fractured as we've been, we're still ostensibly one country. So whereas in Europe you've got all the culture wars times 10 that we have here, plus you've
Yeah.
got the immigration issue and so I really think that the biggest candidate for that is something in Europe, which then would mobilize Russia to do something, which would, I mean, there's all of these dominoes that could fall if there's a broader European collapse. And so that is honestly where I think it probably would come at this point, at least.
And I'm listening to a very lengthy podcast series again. I've listened to it before, but I really, really enjoyed about how World War I started, like starting with the, Archduke Ferdinand, and like starting like that is like the beginning. And one of the things that is revelatory in that is these centuries of hatred of each other in Europe that are band-aided over, and we were like kumbaya for like years or maybe decades. But once that spark is ignited, all that venom comes back again. Like it's like it doesn't. My point is, it doesn't take much to get back into the mode of like, you're French and we're German, and then you got to go, and like it doesn't take much to get back into that. Like we've had an unusually calm period of time where we just kind of felt like we evolved out of that. I suspect that once that Pandora's box is open, all that's going to go out the window.
Totally. I harken back. That reminds me of when we visited England, Scotland, and Ireland all in a very short period of time, within several weeks of each other. And the narrative in each of those countries, the narrative I remember going through Parliament, and the narrative was when I think it was the Scots who came and they burned Parliament down way back. And so the English were like, oh, those nasty Scots. And then we get up to Scotland into wandering around up and down the Royal Mile and all that, and it was like those nasty English people and all that. And then you go over to Ireland, and and of course they are still involved in conflict with Northern Ireland versus the Republic of Ireland, and they're all angry with the Irish, or with the English, and they think the Scots. I remember I was sitting I was touring a cemetery where St. Patrick, I think, was buried, and I was asking him about the Scots. He's, they're just Irish that never learned to swim. So that, there's all of these cultural undertones that even now, even though they're ostensibly all friends, there's still a lot of anger there. And I saw that in Russia. I saw that every place I went. So it's Europe is in trouble.
Well, I'll end on a happy note. If you haven't done this, and even Kenny G 70 years from now, it'd still be entertaining to do this. I don't know. The World Cup is in the United States this week. I'm not sure you've heard about that.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous volume of videos going around Twitter of people from like the UK trying American food, like barbecue in Texas for the first time. Dave, they're awesome. Like,
is that right? No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, they're amazing. Like there's some of guys walking through Costco or Buc-ee's, like the truck stop.
Yeah, truck stop. Yeah.
There was another one of it wasn't Costco, but it was another big store like that you and I just kind of take for granted. And they're walking around in like bewilderment, like what? But watching the guys eat the barbecue for the first time, they're like 22-year-old, very fit soccer guys that they probably play soccer in some kind of leagues or something like that. Very very fit. Very just the reactions to it being exposed to America it's really fun to watch. I would really encourage anybody listening to go just search on Twitter, Brit tries barbecue, and it'll unlock the algorithm for you, I'm sure, and you'll be seeing all kinds of stuff. But very, very fun to watch. A little bit of Americana in the midst of
America chaos. Saves the world. I love it. I'll go along with that narrative. That's a good narrative.
Yeah. All right. Well, as Dave mentioned at the very beginning, if there's anything we said that was especially true or untrue in your opinion, something we got right or wrong, we'd love to hear about it in the comments. You can do that at unsilentpodcast.com. Rumble has a great comment section. And until next week, this is Brian and Dave signing off.
See you next week.
Do you want to be unsilent? Make your voice heard on our social media channels and share where you think we got it right or wrong. Go to unsilentpodcast.com for social links so you can join the discussion.